This program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised. New Orleans, famous for Mardi Gras.
One thing, when you live in it, you hear me, you gonna die, you hear me?
It's also the murder capital of America. And the rule here is kill or be killed.
Nothing can hurt me, because the next move is death. And once you're dead, you can't do nothing about that.
In the 504, every slaying is shrouded in silence.
No witness, no case, back on the street.
And only revenge can even the score.
If someone killed my friend, then I might have to kill them.
Louisiana. It's like no place else.
You can't really compare it to any other city within the United States. It's like a mystique.
The Big Easy draws more than 7 million tourists every year. Lured by food, fun, and a laid-back lifestyle.
Everything has its own flavor down here, including the streets.
These visitors rarely see the city's dark side.
It's a town of illusion. Nothing is the way it appears.
June 2006. 5 teenagers with alleged gang ties were sitting in a Ford Explorer when out of the early morning darkness, they were attacked.
It was a Fallujah-style assassination, ambush.
The gunman executed the driver first, preventing an escape. He then rained a hail of gunfire on the helpless other 4. Investigators described the scene as sheer carnage.
15 years ago, it'd take 2 hours to do an autopsy because there was 1 or 2 bullet holes in the body. Now it takes about 5 hours because there's 20 bullet holes in the body.
Little bodies couldn't really take too much of assault rifles, And that's the weapon of choice these days.
Word on the street was that the murders stemmed from an altercation over a drug dealer's corner.
They're making their money, doing their thing. Then you got some that's gonna hate. You got people that's gonna hate for no reason.
The year would end with New Orleans recording 162 murders, despite having a population of less than 250,000. It made the Big Easy the country's murder capital. New Orleans is ruled by thugs even more ruthless than LA's most violent gangs.
The Crips and Bloods tried to establish themselves here. These guys killed them. Simple as that. Gone. See you later.
We look at gangs like it's like a coward move to us. But a gang, it takes 15 people to get in 2 cars and do a drive-by and kill 1 person. In New Orleans, I just saw 1 person kill 15 people.
The city's underworld is run by the Gotti Boys, a ruthless bunch of bangers who claim their bonds run much deeper than colors.
We ain't wearing no red rags, ain't playing no Crips and Blood out here.
Despite the name, there's no connection between the Gotti Boys and famed mobster John Gotti. Instead, the gang took the name because they, quote, get what they want. They're known for their baggy jeans, white tees, and the reputation that there's no one harder in the 504. This Gotti boy, Dio, says they're ready to strike at a moment's notice.
We got a gang. Now, did we responsible for a lot of things happening? Yeah. And anybody that know me or know my people. They know we gonna scratch together. When we gonna scratch, they don't know.
Unlike most gangs, the Gotti Boys don't flash tattoos or use graffiti. They're identified only by their turf.
Pretty much everybody go by the number of their ward.
New Orleans is divided into 17 wards that were once used in the voting process. Now, these wards are simply part of the city's history and the gang's culture. The Gotti Boys rule the 3rd ward.
Probably hold up that many fingers or something like that, or that's it. You know, big gang signs and all that.
The 3rd ward is dominated by a cluster of low-income housing projects. The Magnolia, the Callio, and the Melpomene, or MELF. These projects are marked by sneakers that hang from the power lines.
It's just like saying we here, this the hood. And let people know who ain't from the hood, you're entering the hood when you see shoes on a power line.
Each pair marks the edge of a drug territory. More than one pair on a line means that corner is a battleground between rival gangs, disputes that can turn deadly.
I mean, when you be living in the jungle, what you think them bears and them lions and all that be killing for? It's about survival, you hear me? This is a real jungle. It's the milk.
31-year-old Terrell Cobbins, AKA Uncle Laurel, is considered the landlord of the MELF. It's the only home he's ever known.
That's my project. I'm the landlord. I mean, they behind me. I love the MELF. I've been in the MELF since 1976. You know what I'm saying? My mama water bag bust on the right street. I came out, went in the store, and bought a white tee. And that's just me.
In 1983, at the age of 7, he was arrested for carjacking. 1 year later, he was jailed again for purse snatching.
You know, I'm running a part of the jailhouse where they got cats 4, 5 years older than me. When I made 10 and 11, I was off the post. I was advanced. I was seeing what was going on. You know, killers and all that.
Uncle Laurel's scars and the knife he carries are a testament to years of gangbanging.
We used to be at Wall Tree, you heard me? I've been shot in my heart. I got hit in my stomach. I already told y'all. My leg right here. I got hit right here. I had to shoot out with them peoples. I caught one right here, trying to block a bullet.
Violence and silence is the way of life in the 3rd ward. New Orleans police once tested an experimental gunfire detection system by firing off 900 shots into a barrel in the 3rd ward.
We checked with NLPD and we said, how many phone calls did you get in? And the answer was 1.
Gangsters say the code of silence comes from years of mistrust and a belief that not even the law is on the up and up.
Oh man, the police, man, they crooked. And the police did a real criminal.
Until 2007, Louisiana's law dictated that authorities had to file an indictment within 60 days of arrest of a defendant or drop the charges. The instances of witness intimidation, poor police work, and overburdened prosecutors led to the deadline usually passing with no indictment.
60 days, you're out.
It's a loophole gangs like the Gotti Boys knew how to exploit.
If ain't no evidence come on you, they can't bring it back up. They can't do nothing about that. They got to let it go. So now you got this dude, you know, done killed somebody. Everybody know he did it, but ain't nobody gonna come to court, right?
The law led to a Crescent City phenomenon called the 60-day murder.
People just know what to do and what not to do. And just something that you don't do in the hood. You don't just go talking about what you saw. You just don't do it, period.
There's a carousel out there. You know what I'm saying? What goes around comes around.
The New Orleans Police Department declined requests to be interviewed about the Gotti Boys, claiming the city doesn't have a gang problem, only groups of misguided youth. Those who grew up in the projects tell a different story.
In the street, you might get shot at, car get shot up. There's something bad gonna happen, more or less. You know, you get dealt with, get your issue.
You get your issue like Patricia. I mean, when I catch you, I'ma crown you. Cut you in your cranium, all that. Bake a cake for you. When I stick a fork in you when I catch you, you done daughter.
30-year-old Daryl Odell Bryant, AKA Dio, can't remember any other life.
My whole family tree, it's our gang.
Dio moved to the Melf as a 6-year-old. He made money dancing on street corners in the French Quarter. It went to support his family's drug habit.
My whole family was into that life. Either they was using, they was selling, or knew somebody that was using or selling, and it was all tied in. I have uncles that's doing time. I have uncles that got killed. You know, my whole family is wrapped up in it.
In 1994, Dio began peddling dope and living the thug life. The 15-year-old was making a sale when the buyer robbed him.
So that's what really like put me on that borderline of saying, kill this or just let it ride, bro. It was a voice saying, don't do it, don't do it. But that other voice was saying, man, you on these streets, man. You can't let them keep doing this to you. That money is supposed to be for something else.
Dio went home, got his gun, and began to hunt for the man who ripped him off. He found him in the interior hallway of a building in the Melf.
Something just clicked on me, he said something to me, and I just lost it. He caught fire before his body dropped. I was that mad.
Dio killed the man and was sentenced to 7 years for manslaughter. Instead of finishing high school, he came of age in prison.
You got a tendency to, you know, either be or be God. You learn to survive more in jail than in the street. I came home as a man, basically, you know what I'm saying?
You don't watch yourself in the city, you will get caught up.
Getting caught up in the Big Easy can mean an early grave.
No matter how much of a badass you think you are, you walk around a corner, you're gonna get clipped. You're gonna get shot. And there's too many damn funerals in this town.
New Orleans, home to the Gotti Boys, one of the Big Easy's most notorious street gangs. The Gotti Boys run the Third Ward Triangle, formed by 3 housing projects, the Callio, Magnolia, and the Melf. Places synonymous with death.
They have shows like The Cosby Show. You know what I'm saying? That's what everybody saw when they was a child. But you know, you wonder like, is that life really real? Because where I'm at, you know what I'm saying, this hell where I'm at, we get up in the morning and we hear gunshots.
Born in 1979, Garcedo Hickerson, street name Cito, was raised in the Third Ward. Cito describes a place without hope.
I mean, anything else is out your reach. That's how you feel. Because it's like, New Orleans, the city is like bold, where you feel like you're a crab in the bucket and you can't get out this.
The projects, completed in the 1960s, were meant to help low-income families, but soon became run down.
We're living in these 2-bedroom apartments. It's the ghetto, like, you know how it's stereotype? It ain't nowhere that I would prefer to grow up.
The projects were constructed almost entirely from concrete, a fact residents learned to appreciate as drugs and gunfire flooded the area.
said, it's the chopper city. And this a chopper. Chop you to little pieces. Assault rifles is all guys is shooting down here. You have concrete protecting those kids. So when they inside, first thing they do, get on the floor, and everything will be all right. Bullets ain't gonna come through this concrete wall.
Single mothers who seemed trapped in a desperate cycle struggled to raise their children, who were forced to take on adult worries.
No real man can't look at his mom and she can't put food on the table. Can't no man do that. It's gonna get to them when they sleep like, man, I ain't letting my mom go through this shit. And if I gotta die trying to do something, then that's what I'm gonna do.
The kids in the projects saw one way out: dealing. To them, the drug dealers were role models. They had money, women, guns, and respect.
You might be a youngster, 9, 10 years old. You see the dudes with the big fancy cars coming by, and you seeing this, you like, man, that's what I want. You made me want to be a gangster, period.
Cito wasn't the only one. In the 1990s, a handful of kids from the projects formed a gang and began calling themselves the Gotti Boys.
When the Gotti Boys, whatever it was, they got it.
Many of the Gotti Boys were related, brothers, cousins, and even uncles. Yet their loyalty to the gang ran thicker than blood.
And if something go down with this person who you slept and ate with, ran the streets with as a child, you gonna help him. You gonna be there for him no matter what.
25-year-old Damian Allen, street name Dip, grew up in the 3rd Ward and joined the Gotti Boys at age 14.
That was my family. Right now today, that still is my family. Ain't no war, that still is my family.
By age 15, Dip was dealing drugs. He learned early that survival in the projects is never guaranteed.
This is something that been with us before Katrina, we was always on our own. We always had to get it how we live.
Get it how you live is like, if you walking down the street, find some money. You found it, that's yours. You got it how you live.
The Gotti Boys got it how they lived, by dealing heroin and crack. In 1998, Uncle Laurel nearly lost his life when he was shot by a dope dealer in the mouth.
I got shot trying to shoot somebody. I ran out bullets. So I got in the hallway. So I had to catch me some shelter. I run out, get them off me, but I'm all bust up, but I ain't realize I've been hit all in my heart. And I'm moving with bullets in me. They traveling. The more I moved, the worse it was getting.
He collapsed in the hallway. A neighbor who witnessed the shooting called for help. Uncle Laurel was rushed to the hospital, where he remained in a coma for 4 days. It wouldn't be the last time his family would deal with drug-related violence. Laurel's cousin, Cornelius Cobbins, aka Baby Kiki, was a hero in these projects.
Baby Kiki, that's my boy. That's my heart. You know what I'm saying? He was a part of us.
Kiki was a Gotti boy who made bank in the drug trade.
We all made money. Dip made money, Dio made money, I made money. But Kiki used to just have money everywhere. It's something about the project was just made for Kiki.
He jumped into the game or whatever and started doing this thing as far as hustling and all that stuff, being flash with the money, dressing, living that lifestyle, a lot of cars.
Kiki was seen as a Robin Hood type outlaw in the 3rd Ward. He even bought the neighborhood kids school supplies when their parents couldn't afford them. Kiki was also known for the car he tricked out with expensive stereo speakers. In October 2000, Kiki stopped his car under the Claiborne Bridge to fix his speakers. While he was making the repair, a rival gang member gunned him down. Uncle Laurel was devastated.
And that was the best thing that the streets ever took from me. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, no matter how I change or what I do, I'm gonna be gangland for life, you know what I'm saying? Behind him, I love him. I die for him. I told you, we got baptized together. We were supposed to die together.
Kiki's killer has never been caught. The Gotti boys know that life on the streets often means an early death. No one is immune, not even the famous. In 2003, Soulja Slim, a rapper known as the Tupac of New Orleans, was a rising star in the hip-hop world.
Soulja Slim was really rapping what he was living. And ain't nobody gonna sit up here and say Soulja Slim was a studio gangster. You can't believe that, and nobody gonna tell you that. His name was Magnolia Slim before it was Soulja Slim. So he had the hood on his back already.
The 25-year-old Slim was standing in his mother's front yard when he was gunned down, shot 3 times in the face. While no one is talking, the suspicion is the murder was a paid hit, sparked by jealousy over Slim's quick rise to fame.
Any black man with a lot of money, he's a target, no matter what you're doing. That's the way it is. You just gotta live with it.
After a short investigation, the cops arrested a 22-year-old suspect. In his possession, they later found a stolen police pistol with a scratched-off serial number. A ballistics test matched bullets from that gun to those in Slim's body. But no witnesses would testify against Smith. By 2008, the suspect had been arrested for 3 more murders. In each case, charges were dropped. It was a common story in the Big Easy. The district attorney's office dropped the murder charge against him, and Soulja Slim's death became a cold case.
The community won't cooperate because I'm not going to finger you as a violent felon, because if I know you're on the streets in 5 days, guess who's the next victim? Me. And I don't want that.
In 2005, a crime commission report revealed that due to the 60-day law and the city's code of silence, only 7% of those arrested in New Orleans were ever convicted. Any outcry that stunning crime report might have stirred was blown away within days. On August 29th, Hurricane Katrina took aim at the Big Easy. It would change everything, even for the Gotti boys.
People thought the world was coming to an end.
The Gotti boys, one of New Orleans' most notorious gangs, ran the Big Easy until August 29th, 2005. That's when a Category 5 hurricane put the mouth of the Mississippi in its bullseye. At 6:10 a.m., Hurricane Katrina made landfall south of New Orleans before turning east toward Mississippi. The Big Easy felt the wrath of the storm surge, which flooded the city. It was complete chaos.
We lost total communication. We had a complete collapse of the infrastructure. The 2 most valued commodities after the storm was bottled water and dry ammunition.
Survivors were starved for food and water. They quickly began looting for the bare necessities. Even the Gotti boys weren't prepared for the lawlessness.
My sister and her family was on the interstate, lived on the interstate for a week, telling me that she saw a guy kill his sister over a bag of ice. It's crazy. People breaking into people's house thinking they got food in them.
I had nothing.
Nothing but the clothes on my back. That's it, that's all I have.
Dip was one of hundreds who sought refuge on rooftops. He and his family were rescued by helicopter and taken to a staging area on top of a causeway. From there, they boarded a bus out of town.
I ain't knew where I was going, and really, I didn't care. I was kind of frustrated at that time, you know, not knowing what's going on, you know. I thought the city was through.
Uncle Laurel, who had spent his life in one of the most dangerous projects in New Orleans, walked into a living hell at the Superdome, the place where more than 25,000 sought shelter.
It was a catastrophe. That's the bottom line. I don't really like talking about this dome because I go to thinking about the smell. I got a weak stomach.
There was no food, no water, and no electricity. They did, however, have guns.
It was like you're on the streets. I mean, man, they had garbage cans full of guns in there. Some people they were checking, some people they wouldn't.
I've been in some godforsaken places. This is as close as I've seen to anarchy in my life.
For up to 5 days, the survivors lived in squalor. A few lost all hope. At least one man committed suicide off the upper deck of the Superdome.
We got people jumping off the terrace section, fearing that it's no tomorrow. Like the water, people didn't know when that water was gonna stop rising.
Finally, the buses arrived, taking the storm's victims, citizens as well as criminals, to a holding area in Houston, Texas. Houston PD had no idea what kind of gangsters were coming their way.
We were somewhat blindsided, I think, only because we did not understand that element, that lifestyle over there. There's no word to describe it other than chaos. I mean, it was just absolute chaos.
Many New Orleans residents had lost their identification in the flood. There was no way to tell who was whom.
Suddenly you had a group of people who realistically were unknowns. I mean, they were ghosts because their IDs, everything was gone.
The Houston authorities began randomly assigning evacuees to whatever housing was available.
They were just put place to place to place to place. So all these people that hung out with their homeboys back at the complex back in New Orleans had no idea where their friends were.
Or their enemies. The Gotti boys armed themselves.
If you had a gun in New Orleans and the Katrina took it and that's the only way you felt safe, you buying you a gun in Houston. You gonna buy you anything that you feel like gonna put you back in a home state of mind.
In New Orleans, the Gotti boys had only one rule: anarchy.
It was more of a free-for-all. You just kind of go out and do your thing.
The streets of Houston were a different ballgame. Here, gangs like MS-13 and the Bloods were well organized.
There are many gangs here that have structure like the military. They'll have a general, a second general, captains, lieutenants, all the way down to foot soldiers, and they operate in that manner.
Houston's street rules were different, and the Gotti boys had to change their methods.
They didn't want to be caught wearing a red rag or a blue rag or a black rag or a white rag, so they started wearing camouflage. And on their camouflage knit hats or baseball hats, they would have 504 to distinguish themselves as being from New Orleans.
When the money from FEMA started flowing, it created another problem for Houston. Gang members used it to buy cars. Now they were mobile. Old allies found one another and a way to use their cash to make even more money.
You get a check for $4,000, well shoot, you go spend $2,000 on some cocaine and then go distribute it for a profit. Money was being dished out to people who were not accustomed to having it.
Within months, several Houston clubs decided to host New Orleans nights. It backfired as old rivalries were reignited.
They would show up at these places and they would see somebody they didn't like and they would take them out. It was chaos, it was killing for no reason at all. It was robbing, it was stealing, it was burglarizing.
Ain't nothing changed, it just was a different environment, that's all.
While the old wars raged, new ones over drug turf were starting with the Houston gangs. The New Orleans gangs showed no mercy.
They'd kill you in a heartbeat. Their regard for human life, there was none.
Houston was now overrun by the same kind of hardcore criminals that had terrorized New Orleans for decades.
It was almost as though they lived by the minute. If I have to kill you to get to the next 5 minutes, then I kill you and I move forward. And it was no big deal.
In the 3 months following Katrina, Houston recorded 379 homicides, up 13% from the same time frame the year before.
When they move, the murder rate go up wherever they at. Go check Houston. Check Dallas and Atlanta. Murder rates gets jacked up when New Orleans in the building.
New Orleans gangsters were bold, some tattooing a green cross between their eyes. The mark would identify a hardcore killer.
Once they got their 5th kill, they would have that cross on their forehead. We probably came across 6 or 7 different guys that had that cross on their forehead. They had no qualms about shooting multiple people within 2 or 3 months here in Houston.
The Gotti boys were in for a big surprise. The 60-day rule didn't apply in Texas, meaning if you did the crime, you had to do the time.
They would just tell us, yeah, it's a 60-day murder, I'll be out in 60 days. And we would tell them, well, no, you're not. They wouldn't understand. And you would literally have to let them sit there for 60 days, and come day 61, they're like, what happened? I'm still here. It was almost re-educating them to what a justice system was.
The Houston PD also refused to be stonewalled by the code of silence practiced on the streets of New Orleans.
We developed a strategy that if they refused to give their name, if they gave us false information, they could be charged with a crime in Texas called failure to give information or failure to ID as a witness.
The Gotti boys were feeling the heat.
Police up there started getting real strict. They started getting, they started like reading us, So once they saw the saggy pants, they knew it was us, so they really was with us.
New Orleans gangs were frustrated by the tougher laws of Texas and quickly headed back to the Big Easy. What they found blew their minds.
When I came back, it looked different. You ain't really know what was what.
There was no nothing. It was absolutely devoid of what we understand society should operate within.
Spring 2006. Just months after Hurricane Katrina decimated New Orleans, the Gotti boys fled the tougher Texas legal system and returned home. New Orleans was destitute. 80% of the city had been wiped out. Of the city's original population, only about half returned.
I was messed up in the head. I was hurt. I thought it was over with.
So when people come back to New Orleans with the attitude of like saying, F the world, I feel them. Because that didn't supposed to happen to us.
The floods damaged or destroyed nearly 200,000 homes and apartments. Many of the city's blue-collar workers were homeless. Some businesses, desperate for help, began offering signing bonuses. Even the Gotti boys felt the economic crunch.
After Katrina, the economy wasn't where it needs to be, so you had a lot of dudes resorting to violence as far as hustling, robbing. A lot of the drug trade, that started back up. The violence started back up.
And there was a new problem: increased competition in the drug market. Some gangs with Houston connections, like MS-13, saw a wide-open market and began trying to move in. They flooded New Orleans with every drug imaginable.
So now it become a turf war. The guys that been on this set all their life, it's being threatened by the dudes a couple of blocks down because the lights ain't much on in this area yet.
In post-Katrina New Orleans, turf borders no longer existed. Everyone wanted to rule the least damaged parts of the city. Suddenly, neighborhoods that had always seemed safe, like the French Quarter, were caught in the crossfire.
It don't matter where you see me at, where I see you at. Because I know one thing, if you catch me down, you gonna do me. But if I catch you before you catch me, it's all good.
The old alliances remained strong. And before long, the gangs from the Third Ward resurfaced. The Gotti boys came back even stronger than before.
You gotta come back, and me and you washing cars on the same corner, we got a problem. Because you cutting into my money, that's how I feed my family now.
So what you do? You walk around the project scrap with guns all day. Tension is that high.
The city was ruled by survival of the toughest. The more you had, the more you were a target.
We start making money. So, you know, you looking good to other people that don't have money. You see what I'm saying? Looking like fresh meat or whatever.
And people said, Mother of God, what have we created?
In June 2006, the Big Easy was shaken to its core by one of the bloodiest killings in the city's history. Just before dawn, 5 teenagers were sitting in an SUV less than 2 miles from the French Quarter when they were assassinated in a hail of semi-automatic gunfire.
Oh man, they wasn't no bad kids at all, bro. At all, man. They was kids. They was kids, man, still living with their mom and daddy.
Authorities believed the murders stemmed from an altercation over drugs.
One of the police chiefs told one of my relatives that during his whole tenure on the police force, he never witnessed a murder where it was like 5 people at one time. Nobody lived to tell a story or nothing.
1 month after the slayings, anonymous phone calls and a street-level informant led police to Michael Anderson, a 19-year-old with 9 felony arrests. He was charged with 5 counts of murder. A key witness in the case refused to cooperate, and all 5 murder charges were dropped. Were it not for heroin possession charges, Anderson would have gone free. It was proof that no matter how much Katrina had reshaped the city, the old New Orleans code of silence still ruled the streets.
It's a societal thing here in the impoverished community that don't speak to authority because authority has failed me.
The slayings forced then-Governor Kathleen Blanco to call in the National Guard to help control the violence.
You had the National Guard, you had the federal police, you had the NOPD, you had all type of agencies coming from around the United States just to get a grip on a crime, just to get the city back up and rolling, man.
But control was slipping from their grasp. In the year following Katrina, the murder rate jumped by 69%. But the crippled judicial system brought about only 1 conviction.
I think New Orleans is one of the worst places as far as murders and drugs you could ever be in, period, ever.
New Orleans, 2006. Devastated by Hurricane Katrina, the Big Easy struggled to get back on its feet, while a crime epidemic threatened to destroy the city. New Orleans had never had a sizable Latino population, but now thousands of immigrant workers were pouring into the area, hoping to cash in on the opportunity to rebuild. Their presence unnerved the Gotti boys.
I ain't racist enough, but the Mexicans, man, they like everywhere.
Many of the Latinos were illegals who didn't speak English. With no legal IDs to open bank accounts, they were known to carry large amounts of cash, which made them prime targets for gangs.
And we call them the walking ATMs because they'd be getting shot or shot at and robbed.
They were targets for another reason. The Gotti boys feared the new residents were trying to take over the drug market.
You're a foreigner, and how you gonna come down here and control our market? It's a small market, but it's ours. Now you gonna come out here, you gonna steal cars, and you gonna do all this little petty to trying to get known, of course. Let's see if you stack up some bodies.
Rumors began to circulate that the Latinos were banding together for protection. It was the authorities' worst nightmare.
And the last thing New Orleans needs are these black drug distribution networks slugging it out against a Latin gang.
The city was spiraling out of control. So in September 2007, the federal government intervened with a drastic move. Hoping to avoid the growing gang violence, they ordered 4 of the city's flood-damaged housing projects to be demolished, including the Magnolia and the Callio.
I'm like this, you tearing down these projects to do what? To modernize our city, all right. But you might take 3,000 people out of one project and replace it with 1,000. What am I at? What them other 2,000 people going at?
Though portions of the Melf are still standing, the landscape of the Third Ward has changed. For the Gotti boys, it's like losing part of their extended family.
When they tore it down, you know, they tore part of me down, you know what I'm saying?
The federal government plans to replace some of the low-income housing with mixed-income neighborhoods filled with townhouse-style apartments. The Gotti boys say this poses a threat to their old hood and its way of life.
You creating poverty. Ain't no way these people gonna get out there and pay no $1,400, $1,500 a month of rent. And they just came from paying $75 at the most. So now you forcing them to get it how you live.
Yeah, the old ways is gonna remain around. Just because the bricks gone or whatever, that won't change the mentality of the project.
The Gotti boys are now scattered throughout New Orleans. But once a Gotti boy, always a Gotti boy. Even if the bricks and mortar are destroyed, the bonds of the gang will remain strong until death. Dip says that after serving time in prison for drug charges, he keeps a lower profile on the streets, but he's still in the game.
You ain't gonna catch me hustling, but you gonna catch me affiliated with them same people, you know?
Uncle Laurel says he became more cautious after the killing of his cousin, Baby Kiki.
I kind of like pumped my brakes after I lost Kiki. I'm telling y'all, that left a big scar on my whole life. Like, you don't really feel it till when it hit home like that. And it was like when they killed Kiki, they killed me.
He works a day job, but still hangs out in the Third Ward at night with his crew. Since he has a felony record, Laurel can't own a gun, but he still arms himself.
Y'all call my little dagger, because I told y'all I'm living in the biblical days.
Dio remains as committed as ever to the Gotti boys. But with a prior manslaughter conviction, he worries his street connections could land him back in prison. He's got a legitimate job now, working as a roofer.
And if you ain't making no money, you ain't making no kind of moves for yourself, you know, you're gonna be under the bridge, under one of those Claiborne bridges. You're hanging in front of the stove drinking. Lost, really.
The New Orleans police have had little success in quelling the violence.
Some of these kids outgun the cops. And they don't care if they die. And they don't care who dies. And it's nothing to do with law enforcement. It has everything to do with their ideal of, I don't give a shit.
The Gotti boys say the violence and silence are the ties that bind them to the Big Easy. And that if a storm like Katrina couldn't break it, nothing will.
Everything is still the same, you know. Just that the murder rate is probably even worse than before.
The violence gonna keep you here because you feel like, man, this is the only way I know.
That's just New Orleans. I mean, that's how it is. That's life.